All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome back to We Slay Dragons. I'm your host, Steven. You might notice we're not sitting in front of a table today, and that is because I am going to teach you how to do some list building. Super common question that I see get asked about with Battletech, both Classic and Alpha Strike all the time. People hop in, they're excited to play, they learn how to play, and then they're like, how do I put a game together? There's so many different eras that this can take place in, and Master Unit List is going to be a wonderful, wonderful tool for this. And we're going to go over two examples today. The first one being, and this is another real example, I am doing a teaching game this coming Saturday. That might be before or after this video actually comes out. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to actually publishing. But you'll just go to masterunitlist.info. It's that simple. And then from here, the big thing, and with Alpha Strike, it matters a little bit less the way that Alpha Strike is balanced. But depending on your group, you might want to add some flavor to your games by playing within a specific era and playing with a specific faction. You don't have to do it. It's more of a table thing. Here in Colorado Springs, we're really big on doing era and faction and usually doing something historic. And we'll go over that for our second example. But for the first example, I'm doing a teaching game on Saturday. And I find that with teaching games, it's most important to just teach the core gameplay loop. I don't really see anybody playing in Age of War, Star League, or early Succession War. These aren't like there's rules for them. You can play in them, but pretty much all of like the literature and everything and all the source books are going to take place from the late Succession War Lost Tech era onward. So there's like 9 major ones that you'll probably see people playing in. Clan Invasion is a very popular era to play in. Succession Wars are popular. There's a lot of people who never moved beyond late Succession War Lost Tech. And that's primarily due to there's less fluff with technology. Clan is the current era of the age. But since this is going to be a teaching game and I want it to be very simple, we're going to be doing late Succession War Lost Tech. And when you select an era, it'll also give you factions for that era. We're going to be doing Inner Sphere, of course. So the different factions here, this is representative of mechs that are common to that faction. And there's usually multiple lists included in here. So say I wanted to make a Capellan force for the late Succession War Lost Tech. I would come in here, I would select the era, I would select the Capellan Confederation, and it would spit out this list. And it's going to have battle mechs, it's going to have your combat vehicles, aerospace, infantry, industrial mechs, etc. But it's also going to, at the top here, it's going to say it's the Capellan Confederation in the late Succession War Lost Tech era, but it's going to include another list, Inner Sphere General. So whenever you're building out a faction list, you'll want to start by going this route, by going to eras and then selecting your faction. Because not only will it tell you everything that they have in that particular era that's common to them, but it'll also provide you with a more general list of stuff that's just common in that area. In this case, it's Inner Sphere General. So if you wanted to build a faction list, you'd do it that way. There's a number of different ways that we can break this down, though. So instead, if you want to start with, like, say you have a particular mech that you want to run, you'd come up here, you'd go to units, We're getting lucky today. Master unit list is working fast. This poor website is very often bogged down. And for example, one of the guys who is coming, one of the units he wanted to use was a Black Knight. So we can just punch in Black Knight here on the unit search, and we'll hit enter, and we'll get a list of all the Black Knights. And we will get their tonnage, we'll get their role. This right here, the TRO-RS, this is going to tell you what publication they're featured in. So if you wanted to get more information on the Black Knight 7, Knight L, that's going to be here in Technical Readout Succession Wars. And it'll show you the book, and it'll even provide you with links to buy the PDF, and it will list off everything that is in that book. Very, very useful tool. So let's go back. This is especially useful for Alpha Strike. You click on it, not only do you get some of the details on the Black Knight, it will also give you the battle value, it gives you the cost, and it will give you the Alpha Strike card. You can click on it, get a larger version of it. You can see where it has record sheets. So you could get record sheets right here. And I believe these are free ones straight from the Battletech website. Yeah. So you could come here and get record sheets for this specific Black Knight. It also provides you a list of other models as well as faction availability. So he wants to use the Black Knight. We want to make sure that it is still available during the Lost Tech era. And we can see here, yeah, it's common amongst the Combine, Fed Sons, House Merrick, Lyran Commonwealth, Mercenaries, and Wolf's Dragoon. Of course, Wolf Dragoons of Black Knights. They're probably fresh off the production line. So this is a fairly common mech, unless you're like Capellan Confederation. The Capellan Confederation wouldn't have reasonable access to this mech. That's not to say that they don't have any. It's just unlikely that any Capellan forces in this era would be fielding a Black Knight. But if you're facing off against Mercs, Dragoons, any of these, there's a good chance that they have access to Black Knights. And this is super helpful. And one of the reasons that we want to still check this is because certain mechs might exist in the clan homeworlds during this era. If you're not new to the lore, just know that before the clan invasion, there's an entire separate region of space where there's a bunch of stuff happening that's not related to the main inner sphere map that you mostly see. And there's a lot of mechs that might be available in that area because they all got taken and moved. So you still want to check here and make sure that there's availability for it. We could even pop in here and see if it's still available in Clan era. Nope. It's extinct. So it is highly unlikely that anybody would have access to this Black Knight in the Clan era. There's always a possibility one will resurface. Somebody digs one out of a swamp somewhere. Through salvage, all things are possible. But if you want to stick to flavor and you want to run, say, a Black Knight 7 during the Lost Tech era of the Succession Wars, you would want to run it in one of these factions. So we have the Black Knight now. You could add it to your force by clicking on this button here. You can also do that from the main page. You're going to go back. You're going to be slow. There we go. These plus buttons over on the side will also add them to your force. And you can come up here at any time, hit the drop down. We'll go to our Alpha Strike builder, and we can see that it's been added to our list here. So what else do we want to add? I'm going to go off of the list that we already created. I'm going to be bringing an awesome 8Q, which I already verified is from this era. We're going to be We're going to be bringing a Hunchback 4G. And we're also going to be bringing a Panther, and I think it's the 9R. Yeah, it's the 9R. And this will tell us what the total point value is. It'll tell us the total tonnage. And we can also come in here and we can adjust the skills of our mechs. So say we want to have that awesome be our ace, and we have like, say we're playing just a small game of Alpha Strike. We've got like 150 PV to work with. We can drop that skill to 3 and it'll update it. And it actually looks like that's pretty cheap. Drop some more skills. And look at that. Everything at skill 3 fits nicely under 150. Can we get that down? Nope. And it's based on it. The rules for it are in the book for how it affects it. I don't know them off the top of my head. I bet you this Hunchback we can get to skill 2. Oh, just right over it. Well, the Panther for sure then. Perfect. So we have our list. It's in at 150. We don't have the cards. Easy. You got to print PDF. And it is going to download a PDF that it generates for you. It's got your TO&E right here. Your table of organization and equipment. Lists everything. This is super great for playing with opponents. Say you're playing like a WolfNet 350 tournament. I love keeping a copy of this because then I can just like keep a list of this and I can just show it to my opponent. Like, this is my list. And then it also provides you with these cards and you can just print them out and you're set. Now, to go further with that, this also works for Total Warfare. This is for Classic. I haven't talked about Classic too much here, but it works for Total Warfare as well. It's going to give us the battle value, the core battle value, and then it's going to give us our adjusted battle value. Now on Saturday, we're going to be playing with a 5,000 point max. And I already discovered that if I drop the Hunchies piloting to 4, that puts us right on the line for 5,000. Now, I don't believe... I haven't actually clicked on print for the Total Warfare builder. Yeah, it just gives you a list. Still, nice to have, especially for any kind of organized play. Very helpful. And I'll do another video in the future on how to print out any of the classic Battletech record sheets that you might need. So that's the basics of it. You can find your unit, and these drop downs here are great as well. So basic filters. For example, I knew I had, before the Panther, like 900 points to work with. A little bit less than that. What you can do is you can come in here, you can go to basic filters, you can look for, say I want a mech between 1 and 900 battle value. You can do this for Alpha Strike also. You can specify your point value. You can specify Alpha Strike abilities. And I'll show you how I use that in a moment. But I also wanted to make sure that the technology, we're just using Inner Sphere stuff. Rules, keeping it to introductory and standard, because again, this is a teaching game that I'm doing on Saturday. Types, we just want to limit it to battle mechs. Factions, I'm not going to specify a faction here. because I don't want to. I want a list that includes the Inner Sphere general list and all of the major factions in the Inner Sphere. So I'm not going to dive deeper into factions right now for the purpose of this teaching game. You can also look by production era to see when the mech was made. Usually you'll wind up using availability era. So we hit late succession war, lost tech. So it's going to pump out every mech up to 900 battle value. That's Inner Sphere, introductory and standard rules, only battle mechs that were available in the late succession war. And you can see that right here, this updates every time you make a change. There are 69 units. I could add on to this and be like, Il Clan also, 231 units. Mech production kind of kicks in again, starting with the Renaissance, and it kind of goes from there. We hit filter, and it's going to pump out this list for me of everything that's really available. Sort from the most to the least. Look at that. I could squeeze a Shadowhawk 2D in here. I can open that up in another tab. Take a look at it. Again, this is Alpha Strike information right now, but still useful to have. Oh, if you're playing Classic, you can also come down here to the skills, and you can check what the battle value is going to be based on your gunnery and based on your piloting. So the default is going to be a 4 gunnery and 5 piloting. So the default on this Shadowhawk is going to be 899. Say I wanted to increase that gunnery skill, make it a little bit better, make the pilot a 3-5, we'd see that it's 1,079 points. All right. Those are the basics. Now we're going to look at something else. I am going to, let's clear this out. Clear. And let's go back home. I am going to an event on the 20th. I'm also helping to run it. We're doing Battlefronts. It's a yearly event here in Colorado. We do it as kind of a campaign with multiple locations, and how each game goes kind of affects the next one. We leave damage on the mechs. We have chances to repair, etc. We're doing this whole thing on the 20th. If you're in Colorado, check out the Colorado Battletech Discord. That's where all the planning is going on for it. That's where the sign-up sheets are. So based on this, I need to make a list. And I already saw that we have an odd number of people playing Alpha Strike. So I popped in there. I saw that we have more people playing the attackers, who are Fed Sons, Comstar, Mercenaries, and Wolf in Exile. So I want to hop in and play Defenders, who are going to be the Lyran Alliance, Mercenaries, and Comstar. I don't get a chance to play Comstar very often. I've played them a couple of times doing Tukiyid games. Don't know what they're like during the Civil War. So I'm going to do Comstar during the Civil War. We're going to come back over to the master unit list. And just like I showed you before, we're going to go to eras. And we're going to go to Civil War. And we're going to select Comstar. And doing this is important because it's going to show us if there's a secondary list that's part of it. Probably Inner Sphere General. Yep, Inner Sphere General. So this will help me narrow things down. So while I was talking to people, they pointed out that Comstar has C3I during this era. C3 is a networking system that shares targeting data, and it lets you fire. If you have line of sight between two different mechs that are both part of the same C3 network, they can share that targeting data, so you can get like a short range target roll instead of a long range target roll, because you're borrowing from whatever mech is in short range. It's a lot of fun. We'll cover C3 at some point in the future, but know now, I was like, ooh, I want to use C3. So I came in here to Alpha Strike. I know that C3I is available for Comstar in this era, so I punch in C3I. You can do multiple abilities. You just need to put a space between multiple abilities. And it gives you a warning right here. The unit has to match all entered abilities. So if you put a combination of abilities in here that doesn't match up with any unit, you're not going to get anything. So right now, already off the bat, I can see 217 units have C3I, but that's across the entire game. I need something that is available during, what are we doing? Civil War? That drops it down to just 64 units. And then for factions, we want to make sure we've got Comstar in there and also Inner Sphere General, because we already checked to see that those are the lists that Comstar uses. So we've got C3, Comstar, Inner Sphere General during the Civil War. And this is going to spit out, excuse me, this is going to spit out a list of 28 units that I could use for my list. And from here, this is where I start comparing what I might have. So Celerities, awesome and fun, but I don't want to mess with drones. I do actually have some 3D prints of Celerities. I don't have anything painted up for Ost Scout. Now, I like bringing stuff that is painted appropriately for faction. You don't have to do that. Again, it really depends on the event. We are allowing for 3D printed miniatures at this event. We are allowing proxies, so long as they're, somewhat similar to what you're running. Hi, cat. I have a cat jumping on me, excuse me. But I do have 3 level 2s worth of Comstar mechs already painted. So we're going to go down the line and we're going to find what I know I have. I know I've got a Phoenix Hawk painted up in Comstar, so we're just going to throw that on the list. Don't have a Wyvern. I do have a Crab. We'll throw the Crab on there. We've got a Griffin. Kintaro. Definitely have a Shadowhawk. Champion. I know I have a Lancelot. Here. Got an Exterminator. Avatar Shootists. Flashman. Have a Flashman. Spartan. Thug. Have a Thug. Have a Crockett. Have a Highlander. And have a King Crab. So we're going to throw all this on here. Now, our lists are limited to 500 points for this. And when you're going to an event, you'll want to check the list building rules. So we've got our Alpha Strike stuff in here. I'm signed up for Alpha Strike. Total of up to 500 PV per force. Units must be only from one faction within the Civil War era per the master unit list. And we can't have any more than 20 units. We're allowing battle and omnimechs, combat vehicles, and battle armor. Specific restrictions, we're not allowing for artillery, mines, and mortars, which is a shame. Artillery really keeps fast movers in check. But hey, that's fine. This will help keep things moving. No repeat units, so you can't use the same chassis and variant. You could use 2 different variants of the same chassis. So what that means is I couldn't run 2 Shadowhawk 2Ds. But what I could do is I could run... Am I on 2 different filters? I am. What's a good example here? Battle Cobras. So see how there's like 4 different Battle Cobras right here? These are all, while they're the same chassis, which is the BTL Battle Cobra, these are all different variants. So I could bring 2 of these, just so long as they're not the same variant. Same mini can be used for different variants. This is super common. Pretty much anybody is gonna... I don't know anyone who plays Battletech WYSIWYG, which stands for what you see is what you get. There's so many battle mech variants out there that just don't have a model for them. So it stands to reason that you would just go by chassis. Proxies are allowed, although please attempt to use something similar to the unit. We're limited to 1 skill 2 or 1 skill 6 unit. All other units must be skill 3 to 5. If you're wondering, why the hell would I use something like a skill 6? Transports. Transports for your infantry and battle armor. You crank it up to skill 6 or skill 7, make it as cheap as possible. It's never shooting at anything. So you could potentially flood the map with cheap transports, and this helps to prevent that. And then it's going to be in 3 rounds. In the first round, 225 PV up to 10 units. Round 2, 275 PV up to 12 units. And then round 3, 300 PV up to 14 units. And we're also like tracking damage and getting supply points and having chance to repair and gain like salvage points. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Back to the list though. I grabbed the Thug. I didn't grab anything else, I don't think. We're going to grab the Crockett. We're going to grab the Highlander. We're going to grab the King Crab. Make sure we have the Thug on there real quick. We sure do. Okay, so right now, my PV is at 484. I just need a little bit more on here, and I already know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that King Crab. I'm going to make him real scary. 506. It's a little too high. I think there's something on here. Let's get rid of the Griffin. I don't think I want to use the Griffin. We've got the King Crab at 2 points. That's our only 2. But I can still put a bunch of other stuff at 3. What is the next scariest thing we have? Just by PV. The Highlander, that makes sense. We'll make him 3. 476. What else have we got? Maybe the Crockett. 3. Flashman. 3. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get anything else in there. So there we go. We have a list. This is a list that is totally legal for the event that I'm going to. We got a print PDF. And this is actually more or less my list. I was like, oh, I can use C3. Give me everything that has C3I. And then I just like opened up my Comstar miniatures and was like, okay, which of these do I have? Throw them on here. I have a nice list that I can show my opponent before each game. And then I've got everything to print out. And I would cut these out and put them into card sleeves with like a magic card or something behind them. If you're like me, you have more magic cards than you know what to do with. I have so many commons, and very often they find themselves behind printed out Alpha Strike cards in a sleeve. And that's it. That's how you use the master unit list for your list building in Alpha Strike. You can also use it as a great tool for list building in Classic Battletech, Total Warfare. I hope this helped you out. If you have any questions, please comment below. And this is Steven with We Slay Dragons. I'll see you all next time. Take care.